to take today, welcome everyone. I know we have a small group this morning, which is kind of nice for us to be able to catch up, but wanted to take some time today to just sort of go around the room and chat about what's going on in our respective jurisdictions. And the reason I asked you guys to label whether you were private wealth or tax is just so that we can sort of get a feel for where folks are at in terms of that. And then we'll talk about sort of planning for next year. We've put some dates on the calendar for next year, and we know when IFA will be happening next year as well, which will be happening in sunny Cancun, Mexico. And I will be working with our local firm there to organize another meetup that I know some of you, I know at least Marc-Andre, you attended the IFA Congress in Berlin last month or the month before. The months are kind of running together. But I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Marc-Andre and Bach, the two leaders of this group. Bach has been leading this group for the last 2 or so years now, and Marc-Andre just joined us as a practice group co-chair this summer. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to the two of you.
Right. Thanks so much, Hannah. Thanks. I'm Bok Eng. I'm from Wong Partnership in Singapore. I think I met some of you in the previous session, but well, it's always different. I look forward to meeting everyone in person soon. Marc-Andre just joined us in this group, and he's co-leading. We had a brief discussion with Hannah and Marc-Andre, and we thought that this group can benefit from a bit more interaction and maybe a bit more planning. So we were thinking of, because the group is actually for both international tax as well as private wealth, which is why Hannah helpfully asked us to kind of sort out what is our respective areas of practice, whether it's tax or private wealth. And then going forward, the plan is that we try to have some sort of balance in terms of emphasis for both the topics. Hannah has also helped us work out a list of dates going forward. We meet kind of like once every 2 months, and we have planned out the dates all the way into next year. And we were hoping that we could alternate between the focus, perhaps one meeting on tax and the next meeting on private wealth, and also to give each other more occasions to socialize or to take charge of these sessions. We thought that, you know, one of us could take the lead on each of these sessions and then provide the topics which you think would be of interest in the group, and then blitz it out. So in that way, hopefully we get more interaction from the group as well. Marc-Andre, anything from your end?
No, I think you summarized everything. Or just the plan was to get to know each other. Because I can say that I've been a member of the World Law Group for a very long time, and I still don't know a lot of people. So just to get people in the room, start discussions, and trying to interact as much as possible.
Would that be something
and I will say these events that we've done, like the IFA Congress meetups where we had, I think, what were there, probably 20 people at the IFA breakfast, Marc-Andre. But we've been trying to do these meetups more at these industry conferences of World Law Group folks, whether they're a formal meeting that the local host firm has held, or just grabbing coffee or dinner or something. So if there is something that you're attending outside of the IFA Congress, please let Bach and Marc-Andre and me know, because in all likelihood, somebody else from the group is attending as well. And I did drop those dates into the chat box.
Yes. Yeah. So Hannah has put up the dates in the chat box. They are all like kind of very, very far away. The closest is like January. So when I looked at them, I couldn't quite say I have anything for those dates. But I don't know for you guys whether it coincides with certain conference or, you know, availability. But the idea is that if each one of us could pick a date, and then we decide on a topic that will be of interest to the group on that date, and we circulate the topic in advance with the scope of discussion, then we can come all ready to discuss it, and it will be probably a more fruitful meeting that way. I was just wondering, it looks like everybody here is more on the tech side. Anyone anyone who focuses on private wealth? Yasip?
Yeah, maybe it makes sense to go around the room, just, or maybe I missed that part, just to do introductions, because I see faces and names, but it would be great to just know where people are from, what their practice is, and then after we can get into what's going on in our countries. I say after that.
Okay, I guess
For
I
sure.
should start, right? Like I'm the only one who has marked herself a bit different than others. Well, because I'm not a tax partner. I wouldn't be naming myself a tax partner, but I'm a partner in the banking and finance department of the firm. I'm from Turkey, Istanbul, Haguner Bilgen Özeke Attorney Partnership. And I'm dealing with some private banking and wealth management matters as well. I'm most of the time I'm working with trusts or with the families, working on their constitutional documentation or structurings, including their estate or wealth plannings, so that I'm closely working with tax partners. I mean, we do have a tax partner in our firm, but they're mostly dealing with litigation matters, so that in wealth management sector, we're actually working together with external tax counsels, and on similar matters, we do have a couple tax counsels that we're closely working with. So when I do need a tax advice, I just touch base the issue with them and either advise to the client by myself, or through their advice, or just introduce them to the project as well. So this is me.
Great, thanks. So I think we'll just go on the participant list that I have here. Maybe on the next one, Erlan. I'm sorry if my pronunciation is bad.
Yeah, no, that's good. Well, I'm a partner with Tozini Freire in Brazil, who's been a member of the Word Law Group for a long time already. Here I am, partner responsible for wealth planning and wealth management in general. I also a tax partner, so I have both roles here. So my focus is international taxes. I have a master's degree in that area, and I mean here we do I mean differently than yes, and I mean we have substantial tax work here. So it's we do the same work that the big fours do everywhere. So I mean, for us, it's a very tax-driven work. So we work on, of course, on structuring, on cross-border planning, even local planning for families and companies with tax. So I mean that's pretty much it. So I'll be happy to collaborate with the group. I think I already spoke to the group, right? I think last year, right? And so we had a conversation about digital taxes. I think it's, I completely lost track of the last 3 years because of the pandemic. When it happened, if it's 2021 or 22.
Sometime in the last 3 years, that's right.
Yeah, last 3 years. So happy to meet you guys.
Great, thanks. So next, Federico.
It's Mark Andre. Well, I'm in Argentina. I'm the tax partner of the firm. I have a second hat in the mining department, taking advantage of the blooming mining industry more in Argentina. Nowadays, focus on lithium. I mean, that's really blooming. And as a lot of those projects are in the early stages, tax planning is a big part of that. So that's why I somehow got that second hat. That somehow replaced my practice in wealth planning. Argentina nowadays is going through a leftist government with very, very high taxes, and some very wealthy people just dropped the towel and emigrated from the country nearby to Uruguay. I mean, it's just a half an hour ride in a ferry or an hour in a plane, because you have to go through a lot of customs and migrations issues. So having I take more time going to downtown Buenos Aires from my house than people from Uruguay. So a lot of people move there. They have they voted with their feet and solve a lot of wealthy planning issues by doing that. Luckily, as lawyers, still working in Argentina, got a lot of issues from the tax side, not only for individuals but corporations. My key work is in planning and structuring. I also do some litigation, but well, that's my life.
Right. Thanks. Next one, Pietre.
It's Piotr. Yeah, thank
Piotr,
you.
oh, sorry. My Polish is really bad. Stopped in French and English.
Peter would be easier, most likely. Hello, everyone. I'm a tax partner at SKS, which is a legal firm based in Warsaw. I'm primarily focused on tax issues, in particular tax M&A, but also VAT, which is in Europe something which is quite important from the tax perspective or in the tax world. I'm also attending those general meetings of WLG. Last of them took place in Atlanta. But happy to see more tax faces in this group, because there's not many of them during the general meeting, and I think that would be a good idea just to meet at least once a quarter or maybe once a half year to discuss some topics. I believe I do have some ideas what we could speak about, if of course everybody else would accept that. So we could maybe share some thoughts on those topics. Anyway, happy to see new faces today.
Great, thanks. Just looking at the list, Buck, I think everybody already knows you, but if you want to take a few minutes to talk about your practice.
So my focus is on private wealth. My practice is actually quite similar to Yassim's. I do a fair bit of estate and succession planning, a lot of trust work. I do a fair bit of family offices, setting up of family offices, working with family offices in Singapore. And related to this sort of work, usually there is a tax angle. And we do work a fair bit with tax experts. We have our own tax partner within the firm, but the tax we do is only focused on Singapore. So as you would know, when we work with high net worth individual, a lot of the planning, structuring, and issues tend to cross territories. So when it crosses territories like into Europe or other parts of Asia, we do work with partners, and in particular, we try to work with people and contacts we know within the WLG group. So I look forward to my next case where I will be able to work with every one of you.
Right, thanks. I think everybody already knows Anna and Alyssa from the World Law Group. I think just quickly introducing them. They're not tax practitioners, but I think they're probably the most important people in the room for the virtual room. And to finish with me, I'm a partner at Davies, Ward, Phillips & Weinberg in Canada. My practice is mainly centered around international tax. A lot in the fund formation, M&A, and mining sector, which I've seen the other way that of Federico's deals that he was talking about, that recently we have a lot of, as a way of background, Canada is generally a hub for investors in the mining sector. And there is a big stock exchange where all these mining public companies are listed. And generally the money comes from somewhere around the world, comes to Canada, and then it goes down other countries like Argentina. So I've been doing a lot of that. There've been a lot of clients involved in these type of, say, public companies, investment funds. And I'd say I used to do a lot more private client work, but it's been going down, say, year by year, and more focusing on the tax part, because we have partners at the firm that do exactly the same thing that Buck would do.
I used to work a lot with Chef Turner, which was a partner in the firm.
Oh yes, I think I used to work a lot with Jeff too.
Okay.
So now Jeff is now semi-retired.
Yep.
So I think effectively he winded down his practice, started teaching full time in Toronto, and has been I think was also he tried to make it into politics, which unfortunately was not elected. But I think the plan is for the next time around that he's trying to
He will do
be
it.
elected for the conservative governments in Canada. That's very interesting. It's like the mining practice in Canada is booming, and it's always fun to see that we know familiar faces.
Yeah. Peter, you mentioned that you have some ideas for topics that we can talk around.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that is quite, it might be a little bit European oriented from that perspective, but I'm happy to see what you think about that. One of us could be cryptocurrencies, which is something which is unregulated here in Europe and implies a lot of questions from the industry. In particular from the investors, and that I would be happy to learn and understand how is it regulated and taxed in particular jurisdictions outside of Europe, because that is not something which is available for that kind of a knowledge is not available for everyone, and definitely it is something worth exploring from the perspective of the clients which we have here in Poland.
Yeah, I find cryptocurrency a very difficult topic, but definitely interesting, right? Because it's so new, nobody can really put a finger as to what are the regulations or what are the laws that apply to it. We struggle with it in Singapore as well.
We actually touched that subject on it was one of the topics on the last general meeting of WLG in Atlanta, but that was like driven from a regulatory perspective. So we learned a little bit how it is regulated or unregulated actually worldwide, whereas I think that would be also interesting to understand what is the idea of particular tax administrations around the world. Because that is, I mean, the places where that kind of legislation exists are quite interesting for the investors which actually are seeking the places where they can run their investments.
I know it's not quite the same, but would it be related to NFTs as well? Would NFTs have the same issues?
To a certain extent, I believe so, yeah. It's from a regulatory perspective, it is also something which nobody knows what is it actually. But from a tax-wise, that is pretty much similar, I would say, yeah.
Okay. But what about for Federico and Alan? Do you think that gives you some scope for discussion? Is this topic of interest in your country?
I mean, here in Brazil, it's been a topic of discussion in several cases we deal with. The thing is that under Brazilian perspective, the cryptocurrencies are treated as a non-financial asset. So it's subject to capital gains tax as a house, a sale of a house or something like that. So and that creates some issues because some transactions are very sophisticated and it's pretty complicated to deal with this concept for complicated transactions like arbitrage of cryptocurrencies or loan of cryptocurrencies and other stuff. So, but it's been treated as a non-financial asset because it's not, as Piotr said, in Brazil is not also not regulated. We also have several discussions in wealth planning structures because when you have like assets outside of Brazil, it's very, I mean, the most efficient way to manage those sort of assets is through an offshore company located in a tax haven, and it becomes a challenge when you have a substantial investment in cryptocurrencies in those countries, not for tax reasons, but because of anti-money laundering reasons. So you have, for example, if you want to incorporate an offshore in the Bahamas, you have several anti-money laundering requirements before contributing an investment in cryptocurrencies and in other sort of crypto assets. So it's a challenge. I've been with this challenge for the last 2 months with a particular client, and it's pretty. You have to demonstrate with several documents and several information that cryptocurrency came from a reported income and from also that there are some sort of origin to that you can trace back to the origin of those investments. So it's quite a challenge, and both because of this internal on how Brazilian tax authorities treat these sort of investments, and also when you want to go to a more sophisticated structure, it becomes a challenge because of this sort of part of that.
In Argentina, the issue is it is a financial asset. It's treated together as investing in any other currency. The issue is that it's being used. I mean, Argentina has the obligation, imposed the obligation to exporters to bring the export proceeds into Argentina. So what had happened is all the software industry has moved to be paid via cryptocurrencies, and they are not bringing that into Argentina. So it's they are not having problems from the tax point of view because they incorporated companies abroad, but they are taking risk regarding the foreign exchange regulations. So no one brings those to the lawyers. The very few serious consultations we have regarding that was how to avoid certain regulations in Argentina. So we just decided we are not going to provide services regarding that. And as long as I know from other tax lawyers in country, all of that is being used to avoid regulations in Argentina, which is not the way of doing that we suggest of doing business. But well, those who have significant businesses that were not able to move to Uruguay or some other countries have done that. When you check immigration from Argentina, a lot of people, a significant part of the immigrants are those people working in the software industry. The ones who are not doing that are moving into cryptocurrency payments. But well, the government nowadays doesn't have the ability to audit all of that. But of course, we know that being the statute in Argentina, being the statute of limitations 5 years, in 5 years they will have that issue, and there will be the persons or companies that are using that mechanism right now will have problems because this will be detected in due time. But well, nowadays that's what's happening here. Government trying to regulate, people using that to avoid regulations.
Now that's interesting. We're having the same issues in Canada that everybody mentioned. So I think one, in Canada, it's not a currency or financial asset. So the tax authorities just consider it a barter transaction. So I'm exchanging my property for your property, triggering capital gain on both sides. But contrarily to what Erland said, our foreign affiliate system is even worse. So if you try to put it into a Cayman company, you may be okay from a Cayman point of view, but then from a Canadian point of view, there's like CFC income pickups and a bunch of issues that arise because of income from property. So it's always
the current rules in Brazil, you get an eternal deferral on this income, but they're trying to change the law. Yeah, that will be an issue here as well. But to the extent that it's not regulated, you have this eternal deferral. So,
yeah, particularly for us.
Having a software business being managed from a subsidiary of a Canadian company, wouldn't that be a FAPI income? I mean, it would be permanently deferred.
Yeah, if it's an active business, yes.
Okay.
So for example, like the software company is going to earn income, that's going to be deferred, but then all the income that they make on their cryptocurrency trades, that's going to be taxed as so-called like FAPI in Canada.
Okay.
So effectively, like all the passive income that you're going to get, or all the income from property is going to be taxed at the top margin.
As long as you cannot allocate it to the business, to the active business.
Yes. And there are a number of taxes that are really an active business, and you get into like our system is made in a way that it's bad unless you can say that it's good. And now, with that, and also just because people have been not declaring that they were selling those crypto assets, there's a bunch of mandatory disclosure rules. And even I think something came out yesterday where they're thinking to expand it even more, to have some kind of like very complicated compliance to do whenever you hold cryptocurrency and not only when you sell it. So this way the tax authorities can track it and know who has these type of assets and kind of be auditing at the right moments, which is really bad for people that are in that business. There's a lot of compliance.
They are aiming to the core of what makes cryptocurrency useful for a lot of people.
Oh yeah, I think it's cool. I don't know for you, but my view of it is it started a lot to launder money, and then now it became something else. But 15 years ago, we would not be doing work for the cryptocurrency players.
Yeah. Well, we discarded doing that right now. I mean, the use it is having always has some tainted issue there. So just decided we are not going to go into that.
Okay. Well, we have worked into that. We've helped people set up investment funds that are like 100% structured around cryptocurrencies. So all they do is some kind of crypto hedge funds, and all of those are great, and people abide by the rules and they do all the disclosures. But it's always issues trying to explain people, because everybody assumes that just a currency, that you don't have gain every time that you dispose of your asset. I think probably enough about Canada. I think what's going on with those rules in Turkey, or at least in your.
In Turkey is a bit different than Europe. I guess in Switzerland they do already have their exchange for it. I mean, in Turkey, Turkey is one of the countries which has started to use the cryptocurrencies as a pioneer. And frankly speaking, cryptocurrency mining has been quite voluminous in Turkey to date, because they have been using without being connected to any distribution channels or so. But all these are figured out right now, and the cryptocurrencies a new legislation a year ago actually has been enacted, banning the use of the cryptocurrencies as a payment instrument, so that we cannot buy or sell any goods or services through cryptocurrencies, but trading of the cryptocurrencies is not forbidden. And a few years ago, when Turkey has adopted the payment systems and payment institutions legislation, cryptocurrency traders actually tend to assume that the cryptocurrencies were covered under the electronic money definition as well. So the legislators clarified that it is not an electronic money, so it is not regulated at all. So what I can tell you is actually cryptocurrencies are now acknowledged by the legislation itself, and a definition has been introduced into the Turkish legislation in that respect, but still we cannot use them as payment instruments. So we are still testing the waters, I guess.
Yeah, it's interesting. And with the value of the currency going down as people have been trying to use Bitcoin more and more.
And nowadays, it just went all down. I mean, the cryptocurrency market is not doing well anymore in Turkey due to the fluctuation of the exchange rates in Turkey. So it just goes parallel to each other, unfortunately.
That's what people are we're thinking at first, that you could edge yourself with cryptocurrencies being real assets, or considered real assets.
Go assets for those. Yeah, there are some people who are still betting on it. So
I can say, like, we were approached back in I think it was 2010, to set up the first Bitcoin embassy in Canada. And like, we decided not to do it, but if we had done it, it probably would have been the most profitable deal that we would have ever done. Being paid in Bitcoins and just keeping them all the way up to last year. I think now, I know it went down, but
it's vice versa now.
Yeah.
Great. I mean, we have been following the market quite closely as well. I mean, I do remember the time, I actually, back in 2009 or so, first, the Banking Regulatory Authority issued a disclosure. I actually made a disclosure to public indicating that it's not a regulated money. Bitcoin, it just disclosed about Bitcoin itself and declared that it's not a regulated money. It's not an e-money or something else, so that there is no security for public to use it. And afterwards, a couple years later, the Capital Markets Board of Turkey made a similar disclosure stating that the cryptocurrencies are not being traded on the regulated stock exchange of Turkey, so that it's not a regulated money or a financial instrument. And since then, nothing has been happening. But all of a sudden, last year, it is just banned to use it as a payment instrument. So
okay. So I see there's a lot to talk about on cryptocurrencies. Just went on for 20 minutes with 4 countries, 5 countries.
Yes, still not the best investment product for certain private clients, especially for the ones who don't really understand it. But for younger generations, it's quite challenging, tempting, and nice to invest in, or at least to explore.
Yeah, we always thought, like, I'm getting in too late. There's no reason to get in. Yeah, so I think that could be a good subject, which could be from the 2 perspectives, like both from a tax point of view and, say, regulatory / private wealth type of thing. I don't know
Yeah.
how that could fit together, but I'm sure there's a
Yeah.
way.
Well, from the private wealth perspective, I think the curiosity as to crypto is how do you hold it as a trust asset? And how stable is it as an asset? You know, like the last few months that the crypto value just took a huge plunge. And if there's a trust holding crypto assets, there's a question as to how do you account to your beneficiaries? You know, the sudden drop in AUM of your trust, and how do you manage this kind of situation? So I suppose we could do a session on crypto, and like you said, Marc-Andre, we try to cover both sides.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's quite interesting. I guess it may work out. I mean, this is a good topic to discuss.
Yeah.
I'm
So-
I'm just, you know, seeing it as a third person. I mean, we don't have the trust concept is not recognized in Turkey. We don't have trusts established in Turkey, so that when I'm working with trusts, I'm always using or working with foreign trusts. And there are certain difficulties on the distributions through trusts to Turkish residents, Turkey residents. So that's also a good topic to discuss on.
Sorry, as in the immigration of Turkish residents? I didn't catch you there.
Oh, no, not the immigration. I mean, distribution through the trusts to Turkish residents have certain taxation aspects and certain difficulties or issues to concern or to consider. So that cryptocurrencies would be another topic to consider. And actually, I haven't received such a question so far. So I believe that neither of the Turkish residents are allocating any cryptocurrency assets to a trust yet.
Okay. Well, Mansoor just joined us. Would you like to introduce yourself, Mansoor?
Certainly, thank you, and apologies for joining so late. I was wrapping up another meeting and I just ran way over. I work in the tax department at ENS Africa, at the Johannesburg office of ENS Africa. I also sit on our firm's crypto assets working group, and a slightly less formal group that we formed amongst different departments, which touches on the areas that I've picked up in the discussion since I've joined the call. While I look at the tax treatment of crypto assets, I've got colleagues in our banking and finance team who look at the regulatory aspects of crypto assets. And some of the draft regulations that's been issued recently in South Africa, declaring crypto assets as a financial product, which has implications for virtual asset service providers who are providing services in this space, because that would then trigger certain licensing and registration requirements unless they qualify for exemptions. So it's a space where we are seeing developments happening at a more rapid pace. There's been an intergovernmental working group that's been formed between our revenue authorities, our central bank, financial sector conduct authorities, with regard to how crypto assets are treated. We've had amendments made to our Income Tax Act, where crypto assets are classified as a financial instrument, and therefore all of our tax provisions applicable to financial instruments will then apply to crypto assets. So even though there might not be a specific reference to crypto asset in a particular legislative provision, if something applies to a financial instrument, then it would, by implication, then apply to crypto assets. On the individual side, some of the issues that's been emerging here locally is the treatment on disposal of the crypto assets, whether it's an income gain or a capital gain. There's quite a big difference between our income tax rates and our capital gains tax rates. So from the perspective of the holder, they prefer having it treated as a capital gain, but our revenue authority, I think, will take the opposite position. They'll say that due to the fluctuating nature of crypto assets, it tends to be held as a more speculative asset, and they would treat the gains as being of an income nature. So we've seen these issues coming up, and we've seen more local entities making inquiries and foreign entities looking to enter into the SA market, making inquiries with us on registration, licensing requirements, what they are permitted to do and not permitted to do. So apologies again for missing the opening part. But if the idea is to have a talk around this topic, then I think we do have some professionals within our firm who's been looking at the regulatory aspects in quite a bit of detail on crypto assets, particularly the impact of local South African laws on virtual asset service providers, particularly offshore, who might look to be setting up business here, and what requirements would be applicable to them. So thank you all again for the discussion. And again, apologies for joining late.
Thanks for joining. And yes, I think that's all very interesting. And I just feel like that it would be interesting to have a meeting on cryptos, but I guess everybody's so knowledgeable about it that I think I at least know the basics, at least for South Africa and the other countries. But the whole point of it was we were thinking about setting up 4 meetings, say each quarter in the year, and trying to find subjects that could attract people and discuss topics that would be of interest for like everybody in the World Law Group.
Yeah,
international.
It's certainly a topical issue locally. We've seen a lot more companies putting out webinars around this topic of late.
Okay, that could be a great subject. I think we're still missing 3, and we can, if there's any ideas that we could discuss now, or if you guys would rather think about it and exchange emails, we could do so as well. But the goal would be, and you'll see, I think I think Hannah put in the message chat, there are a number of dates that were posted, but I think we're circulating an email with them. So there's nothing before January, so we still have time. So I think the next meeting was scheduled to be in January 25.
Yeah. So shall we do crypto on January 25th? So what we could do is I could try to draft out a kind of the topics that we can talk about under cryptocurrency, and the rest of you can please feel free to add in if there are certain other areas which might be interesting. Then the list of topics could be circulated to everyone in the committee, and we get people we invite them to come on and discuss this particular topic with those outlined. And I was thinking as well, perhaps some of you could lead the conversation and the rest of us could contribute to it also. Right? And then for the rest of the other meetings, like Marc-Andre said, please give some thoughts to the topics that we can talk around. I would love to have some private wealth topics, so I will put some ideas across, and then we can always talk about it either through email or at the January meeting. We can decide on what we want to do for March 30th.
And maybe something just in general, I think it would be great to have something to say like, oh, what's going on in the different countries. Because I feel it's always useful to know when you have a client that says, okay, I want to invest in Brazil. Well, you already know like, oh, what are the main issues or the new things that are going on. So I think that would be one of the most useful things, having a network like this. Like you can look smart to your clients and know different things. I think it's a great way also to share concerns that would have been happening in respective countries. I don't know if that makes sense to you guys.
Yeah, it does. It does. I think if the meetings were more regular and once we get the tempo for it, we should probably have a segment on jurisdictional updates when we start the meeting, where we can talk about what's new, what's happening in each of our respective countries. So at least we can keep abreast as to what's going on. And like Marc-Andre said, look smart at some occasions.
That's a good idea. Okay.
We are going to prepare for something regarding crypto on January 25th. I may take 15 minutes to explain a transaction we have been involved with in the tokenization of a lithium mine. I mean, there is a a lithium mine to be developed, and they were reluctant to sell it to one of the major companies for development, and try to slice it in tiny bits that were embedded into tokens, and it was a very interesting transaction. It's still ongoing, and it may change on the original structure, but it was, for me at least, it was eye-opening in the sense of how the really the real economy can be moved into the digital economy by doing that. I may share that if interested.
Yeah. No, that'd be great. At least to me, like I find that a bit crazy. That so effectively they were selling tokens, like effectively like shares of the company or more income streams.
No, they were selling this as a, well, it's a hybrid issue, but yeah, it's a share which at the end of the day becomes a stream.
Okay. Do you have the name of the mine? I'll just Google it after our meeting.
Sorry, I didn't follow you.
Do you have the name of the mine in Argentina that is doing that?
No, not yet.
No?
I mean,
Not yet? Okay. It's not public yet?
It has not gone public yet, so I will have to change that. But I mean, it's a at least for me, it was kind of, wow, I didn't know this can be done.
Yeah, I thought it was the two worlds that are like very removed.
So opposed that well, maybe it's something in the middle can also be used to. It can be useful for something in the middle too. But going from mining to digital world in one single step, I mean that's what we are.
No, that's great. So I think we have you on for 15 minutes.
Okay, yeah. We do that.
Then we can talk. We can think about what other subjects on cryptos that we want, or maybe that's gonna generate discussions on how it could be perceived in other countries based on the issues that people flag.
Mansur, would your colleague, the one who sits in the crypto committee, would he like to contribute something in the next session?
I'll ask, but I think that they will be very keen, particularly given the changing regulatory landscape in South Africa, and the effect that it will have on virtual asset service providers. I think we can generate an interesting topic around these recent developments.
Okay.
And they are quite recent because the public notices were issued at the start of this month. So we're looking at something that will still be topical by January.
Yeah, that'd be great. So Mark, maybe we work on the outline and the topic, circulate it to the group, and let's see how we flesh it out for next session.
Agreed. Just looking at the time, I see we have 7 minutes, and we have already had people that had to leave early for presential meetings. But I think, was there anything else that we should discuss before the time is up?
I don't have anything specific from my end, but we do have, some of you may have received the email, WLG at large is happening the first week of December. We've got a number of topics that we're discussing and different networking meetings, etc. And interestingly enough, one of the topics is on NFTs in the metaverse, but we're focusing more on the IP and copyright issues. So if that's interesting to anyone to hear from that perspective.
Well, if there's nothing else, we can give everybody their 5 or 6 minutes now, and then we'll take it back for the next session.
Okay, great. So in terms
Perfect.
of next steps, I think Buck and I will try to think about subjects for the next meeting. And then after, well, so the next one on cryptocurrency, how we organize it. And then after, it's going to be for you guys to think about if there's anything else you would be interested in. Interested in hearing on for the next 3 meetings until we get to Cancun.
We had a discussion recently in our internal group on interesting ways to capitalize an offshore trust. Perhaps that's something we could put a very brief snippet into an email exchange, and then we can decide if that's something that could be added to a list of topics for a future meeting.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. That'd be nice.
It'd be something generally on trust, because I think Yesim also talked about how there's issues with trust distributions in Turkey.
Hannah, what's a good way to have this sort of discussion? You connect all of us on email, or that there is something on the platform that we can use?
There is, and the platform that we have goes to everyone, even folks that are not on this call. So it's called discussion boards. So if you log into the World Law Group website, and then you'll see your name up at the top, there's a little carrot pointing down. If you click on that, you'll see discussion boards. And then you all should be subscribed to the Tax and Private Wealth discussion board because you're part of the group. So you can just click on the Tax and Private Wealth and start a new thread. And then people can respond back and forth. And people have their preferences set to get them either, I get them daily. Some people have them set up to get daily or weekly. So that I think would probably be a good place. And any of you can start that. I don't need to start that for you. Anyone can go and start a discussion on the discussion boards.
Sorry, okay. I'm in the page, but I am not finding where's the board. Excuse me.
Let's see. Let me see if I can quickly share my screen. Hold on 1 second. Oh, to the page. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and share screen so that you can see. Okay, can you all see the World Law Group website? Okay, perfect. So you're just going to go click on the sign up, log in. Normally it would take you to the login page, but I'm already logged in. But if you just click up here, under where it says hello, Hannah Shea, if you go down to discussion boards,
okay,
it'll prompt you to leave because it opens in a new window, and go ahead and select that. And here's where you find all of the discussion boards. And you would just click on the Tax and Private Wealth.
Okay.
And start a new thread. And you see that I had already started one for the IFA in Berlin. And if you're not subscribed, you can just hit subscribe, or if you want to unsubscribe from a thread, it doesn't unsubscribe you from the group, it just unsubscribes you from this discussion board. But yeah, so you can go ahead and start a new thread with your subject line, type in your text, and then hit submit. And then others can reply to that thread, and you'll see the individual responses. Like I said, I get my notification so that every time there's a post, I see it. But you can set your preferences too. And let me see how you do that. I will have to go back to see. But you can set your preferences to get them weekly. So right here on the discussion board main page, you can see daily, weekly, or every new post.
Okay. Great.
And if you have any issues with that, or posting, or getting the discussion boards, just send Alyssa or me a note and we can help you with it.
Okay.
Yeah,
right.
That's great.
With this said, Buck, I know there's no such a thing as ending a meeting early. We made it on time.
That's right. You
Okay,
still have
let's
1
get
minute,
the
Marc-Andre.
2 minute. Okay, we'll get the outline going, and I look forward to seeing everybody in January.